What's happening, Hardscapers? Today I want to talk about options to repair your paver project. Let's get into this. One of the many benefits of pavers over concrete is that if pavers settle, they can be pulled up, re-leveled, and replaced. Whereas if concrete settles, you have cracks showing through that concrete, and it becomes a lot more labor intensive and material intensive to be able to replace that concrete. In my many years of experience doing paver lift and relays, we offer our clients 3 different options, each becoming more labor intensive than the next and involving more and more materials. The first option, and very rare that we actually offer this, is a partial lift and relay. This is where your paver project has signs of settling only in specific areas. And it's those areas that you may want to address to get them level with the areas surrounding it that do not seem like they've been settling. And that distinction is very important, and we'll revisit that. But the main reason why we don't offer this is that when pavers settle, they don't just perfectly settle vertically down, but they settle usually at an angle. The measurement of the surface of that paver is less than the amount of the angle that they've settled at. So for example, the top 2 vertices of our paver is less than the vertice on the angle of those pavers. So what that means is there has to have been some sort of horizontal movement of your project to allow that greater distance to have settled. And what that means is when you pick up those pavers and put them back down, there's going to be some larger and noticeable gaps depending on how much they've settled between the pavers that we haven't lifted and relayed versus the pavers that we have. Not to mention, just because it looks like a certain area have settled doesn't mean that other areas around it haven't. So you may pick up a certain area, get it level with the surrounding pavers around them, only to find that at the edges of where you did not lift and relay, you're going to get water pooling. And that's because you've created a low spot in those areas. Because those pavers surrounding don't look like they've settled, but they might have settled just enough to not allow for a slope to completely run off your paver project where that water would shed off. So this partial lift and relay can come with these 2 downsides for your project. Really, the only time that we will do a partial lift and relay is if it's on the border stones where they have likely settled, because there's no surrounding pavers past them that have moved off for them to have settled. So that's a fairly easy fix. And once again, driveway ruts, because even if we do lift and relay them, driveways usually have a more aggressive slope than patios, so we don't have to worry about that water pooling problem, but you will still get that initial problem where the joints might be a little bit wider than the pavers that were not lift and relayed. Option number 2 is a full lift and relay. And what we do with a full lift and relay is we lift the pavers, clean the polymeric sand off the sides of them, set them aside. And if we're doing a project with more complex cuts, especially curves, we try to set them aside in the same configuration that we picked them up. So space is crucial in doing this. And then we scrape out that 1-inch bedding layer. Now, typically what I see with lift and relays is that the previous contractor used stone dust. If you know, on this channel, we do not like stone dust. That is a 1/4-inch chip with dust in it down to fines. It is very poor for drainage, causes lots of issues. It holds onto water, so it's susceptible to heaving in the winter times, causes efflorescence stains on the pavers because of that moisture underneath being held. And also with that moisture will come the failure of that polymeric sand. But sometimes we'll find concrete sand, which is a typical traditional bedding layer for your pavers. But the main reason why we get rid of that 1-inch layer, and why you should, is because typically it's filled with organic materials by the time you're addressing your paver project. Soil, weed roots have established in it. All this organic material needs to go. So we do not want to reuse that 1-inch bedding layer. So we remove that, dispose of it, compact our existing base material. Sometimes we need to add a little bit more base in certain areas that have settled more aggressively than others. Bring in a new 1-inch bedding layer, re-screed, relay our pavers, clean our pavers, pressure wash them, and reinstall a polymeric sand. This is a much better option, especially for the problems that you can experience in that first option, and it's what we lean most of our clients to if it does make sense in their situation. Now with this, we don't extend our typical full project warranty just because we haven't constructed the base. So I can't put our warranty on that for that specific reason. So if you do want our warranty, what we do is provide an option 3. And in that option, we lift the pavers as we do, set them aside, and then we excavate the base, dispose of it, put a new base in. We can typically see where the problems come with the settling, whether it's just age or by lifting a paver and seeing what material was used underneath them. Like I said, the majority of lift and relays that I've come across is that they've used stone dust. Sometimes for just a bedding layer, sometimes their bedding layer using stone dust is 2-3 inches thick. Sometimes their bedding layer is the entire depth of their base. Or we get to digging down and we see that their base was only a couple of inches in the first place, which is definitely going to cause some settling. And typically what we see with this is that the previous installation did not have a Geotextile at the bottom of the base, and it did not have Geogrid in the base. And if you want to learn more about those, we have links in the description below. But ultimately, the Geotextile separates our subsoil from our base material so that there's no contamination between the two. And the Geogrid stabilizes our base material by interlocking the aggregates within the openings of that Geogrid. We compact our base as we build it up, screed a new bedding layer, lay our pavers, clean the pavers, pressure wash them, and reinstall a new polymeric sand as well as new edge restraint for that project. And in that situation, we've basically installed a brand new project, but with the existing pavers. So there's always an alternative to this specific situation where the client can actually just pay for new pavers and they can get a brand new project if they're looking to update that project. At that point, you're essentially just paying for the cost of the pavers for that project to step up from that third option to this 3B option. An alternative to replacing your base is that we can use paver base panels, and we've done this in the past where you have the benefit of a fully constructed base. However, the previous installer constructed it. We still compact that, and then we can install paver base panels, which is like having a brand new base on top of an existing base. And if you want to learn more about paver base panels, you can see the link in our description below. They are compressed polypropylene sheets that insulate the ground, minimizing frost heaving, and they spread out the load over a wider area for your project, stabilizing the pavers on top. We talk these options over with our clients to see what seems to be the best fit for them. Some clients are just looking for a quick fix just to make things look nice. Maybe they're selling their house very soon and they just want a partial lift and relay and they're okay with wider joints. Then that first option is totally fine for them. Or in the second option with the full lift and relay, they may know that their patio lasted them 15 years with some settlement, and they're likely going to get the same lifespan and settlement out of their lift and relay without replacing the base. So that second option seems okay for them. Or if it is a fairly new project that has settled, maybe option 3 is best for them to just get that reassurance that their base has been constructed properly. And at that point, their pavers aren't that old, so they'll opt for that situation. But these are the 3 options for your paver lift and relay, and how you can decide which one is the most suitable option for you in your paver lift and relay.